Hi, everyone, and welcome to AB Conversations, where we will help you CFP your way out of it. A podcast where you get into the minds of a couple certified financial planners on how we think and feel about everyday financial planning questions and what should really matter most to you. A healthier financial life starts now.
Hey, Mike. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Adam. Good to see you again.
It's I know you and Ben had recorded one a few weeks ago, and he's done other, I'll call them special editions with other people, but this is my first podcast not with Ben. So congratulations, I guess.
Fun times. I'm so excited. I think we're going to be wild and crazy here.
Yeah, what are we talking about today?
We are going to go through some year-end reminders or checklists, some good ideas, some housekeeping before the year end. So we'll run through a number of different things, give a little bit of data around it, some tips, and of course, if anybody needs more information on this, we're here to help. So reach out. But we want to run through some things we think are important.
Yeah, and the fact that the clock is literally ticking here at the end of the year for certain, there are certain items, and we'll make note of those, that if they don't happen by the end of the calendar year, you're better luck next year, I guess. So yeah, there's a few weeks left to kind of wrap up maybe some of these items if there's still some low-hanging fruit. But yeah, where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with what we usually talk about, retirement. So retirement accounts, deadlines there, contributions, the maximum amount, everything like that.
Yeah, so I'll go first. We'll say your employer retirement plans, 401ks, 403bs. If you work for a government entity, maybe there's a 457, something like that. You have until the end of the calendar year to make your contributions so that they count for 2022 taxes. And for those that maybe haven't maxed out their contributions, you got a little bit of time, if it's possible, if you have some excess cash or there's money coming, shift money around from one pocket to the other, get the tax deduction this year, depending on where you're contributing. But we would say take advantage of those maximums this year if you're able to. And on those retirement accounts, it's $20,500 with a $6,500 catch-up contribution if you're over the age of 50. So for anybody over age 50, they can do up to 27,000 this year.
And I think it goes up next year, like 30,000 or something so an incredible amount. Something I've posted on in the past is like only 10 to 14% of people max their 401k out. It's an incredible tool. But like people either don't plan or don't they're not thinking about this up front because they have so many other things we hear all the time, like inflation and whatever. But like this is just one thing where it's like you got to contribute as much as you can. I hear clients talk about at least contributing what the match is, and that's great. But you should try to contribute more.
Similar story on the IRA side. So if you don't have a employer plan, or maybe you do, but you're also contributing to either an IRA or a Roth IRA, I guess the year-end component isn't necessarily as imperative because you do have up until the tax deadline. So for 2022 taxes, I think it's April 18th, you can still make a contribution in 2023 up to that date in April for 2022, meaning you can essentially make a contribution backwards. But that only pertains to IRAs, not your employer plans.
Right. Those have to be year end for the 401k, the employer plan.
Right.
So that is a good little contrast there. Make sure people understand that.
Yep. And on the IRAs, those contribution limits are much lower than the 401k, 403b, those employer plans. Is it 7,000? 6,000. It's going up next year. So 6,000 is the limit. It's $1,000 catch up. So 7,000 total if you're over the age of 50. Once again, again, those are going up next year, like you noted on the 401ks. It all has to do with inflation and what the government uses to kind of set those numbers. But those will be higher next year. But same thing, if you're going to take advantage of it, the end of the year is not a bad time to do it. Certainly, we think there's opportunity in the market from that perspective, but just know you do have up until April to make those contributions in the IRAs. What else?
Roth conversions.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So, a typical strategy and the benefit of a bear market, you can execute a Roth conversion. I've heard this called the bear market bonus before. I don't know about that, but
yeah,
your balances are in your traditional IRA or your roller IRA, whatever it is, your tax deferred IRA, they're down. And, that's not a good thing, but use that loss, the balances that are lower, and convert an amount over to your Roth. So you have a less of a taxable gain. So back up just one moment. When you take the money out of the IRA, so let's say you're going to do a Roth conversion, you're essentially realizing that income. And so that's portable, and you pay the taxes then, and then you put into the Roth. So why we like to see Roth conversions, people are all different, and we wouldn't say blanket, just do a Roth,
right.
Roth conversion, but your tax bracket might be low here, or you could convert to up to a certain point to keep you underneath the bracket. But now you have this retirement account in which you'll never have to pay taxes on again. So if this is a long-term investment, you're letting it ride. It's gonna invest and go enjoy the compounding over the long term. And now you have the tax-free money. So when the time comes and you need to start relying on this, you have probably a traditional IRA portion, a tax-deferred portion, and a after tax. So you have what we'd say tax diversification. We like to see that. So it's a good time to take advantage of that. How much depends on a few factors, and I wouldn't say here's what you should do without your situation.
Yeah. Ben and I recorded a podcast, I think it was back over the summer or sometime middle of the year, specifically with Roth conversions in mind. So if that interests anybody or kind of want to learn more and go into the details, we do have a podcast on there. Check it out. And I will reiterate then, this all kind of being through the lens of the year-end checklist, Roth conversions are a calendar year item. So unlike your IRA, Roth IRA contributions that you can make next year for this year, does not apply to Roth conversions. If that needs to happen by December 31st, and if it's something you're interested in, sooner the better, because there is some processing time. There's maybe some things to figure out, like you were mentioning, just the tax impacts, doing some of that analysis quickly to make a decision on what to convert and when. End of the year is an important deadline for that.
Real quick, easy one is RMDs.
Yeah.
So used to be 70.5, it's now 72. Whatever the case is, if you are subject to RMDs, get that money, that required distribution, out of there. It's a 50% penalty on what was supposed to come out. Can you imagine? You have to pay taxes on this money, and you have to pay a penalty. So you ruin probably all that the good things about an IRA, the tax. So don't do that.
Don't do that. Correct.
We're on it.
Yeah.
If you're not a client of ours and you're somehow seeing this, do what you have to do and make sure you take your RMD. If you are a client of ours, we are definitely on you. We don't want to see this. We won't let it happen. But I
can confidently say for our list of clients, because I just looked at this the other day, we only have a small handful, and they're pretty much all, we have the plan. It's now just the timing of it. But to your point, for anybody who needs to take an RMD, a required minimum distribution, for older individuals that have their own retirement account, it is now the age 72. Maybe they were grandfathered under the 70.5 rule, but it also applies to anybody who inherited an IRA prior to 2020. So I won't go into the details why it switched and the rules that changed. But if you do have an inherited IRA, I would double check to make sure if you need to take a required minimum distribution for yourself, or if you're under the new rules that allow you to kind of spread out over the next 10 years. The 10-year rule was new as of 2020. But if you inherited an IRA, you may still be subject to those RMD rules and need to take out an amount each year. So same thing with all of these items. If you have questions, you're not sure, reach out to us, let us know. We can help figure that out with you.
Okay, so I think that does it for retirement year-end type of things. Let's go on to the forgotten stepchild of financial planning, and that is healthcare. I don't know. I feel like maybe estate might be the forgotten stepchild, but healthcare. Now, these acronyms and names always confuse me, so I can assume that other people get confused as well. Let's talk about flexible spending accounts and health spending accounts, FSA, HSA. So flexible spending account. What is it? What are we telling people? What's the big deal with year ends? What does it look like?
So yes, the FSA, that flexible spending account, I was going to say very different from the HSA, the health savings account, and I guess they differ in one key way. The FSA is more often than not kind of a use it or lose it account that you must use in the calendar year. Now there are potentially two exceptions to that, but it varies from employer to employer. So if you're not sure, I would reach out to your employer, reach out to HR, but there sometimes are provisions where you can either roll over a portion of your FSA, maybe it's up to $610 was the number that I found. You could potentially roll that number for next year, or you may be able to extend this year's money into the first 2.5 months of next year. If either of those options are available to you through your employer, it's an either or. You can't do both. It's one or the other or neither, depending on the situation with your employer's plan. But important because a lot of those FSAs are use it or lose it. So if you don't spend that money by the end of the year, poof, it's gone, and you start from zero the next year. So we would hate to see that.
So flexible spending, do you have to have a high deductible plan, or is it just varies if the employer offers it or not?
I think it just varies. I don't think you have to have a high deductible plan for an FSA.
Okay, so for the HSA, the health savings account, now let's take one step back just to try and make sure everyone understands. These are tools to help you. So it's a tax deferral way to save for healthcare expenses.
Right.
So FSA, HSA, similar in that method, in that you take a tax deduction and then you can use this money tax-free on eligible things. So awesome tool. The health savings account, you must have what's called a high deductible plan. And so it is worth researching even further. If your plan's not called high deductible, if your plan meets the threshold of a high deductible plan, and those numbers vary. I don't have them right now, but you can contribute to an HSA account. The maximum contributions for a single person is $3,650. The family contribution is double that. It's $7,300. If you're over 55, you can do a catch up of $1,000 there. Once you join Medicare, you can no longer contribute. So those are the high level things to know about it. Why we're talking about it here though is max out that if you can. Some data I saw, the average contribution again is low to these accounts. It's $2,000 a year. So that's great that people are doing it. And of that $2,000, only 9% is invested. So you have this ability of taking this money, investing it, and using this account as like long term. It's been estimated. It's been estimated that like it costs like $300,000 a couple that's retired in 2021. $300,000
for healthcare.
That's a ton. So one of the tools you can use is this. It's another arrow that you have. Is it a quiver you have in your quiver?
Yes.
So like this is different than an IRA in that it goes in tax deferred, comes out tax deferred. So best of both worlds.
Yes.
Underutilized. So
Yep.
I try and hammer it home as much as I can whenever we talk about it. So
yeah, and I'll point out the key difference between the FSA and the HSA. As I said earlier, the FSA for the most part is a use it or lose it type of deal. The HSA is not that. It is kind of like a retirement account in that you can contribute to it, but up to the limits in any given year, but you don't have to use it. You're not required to spend it down in any sort of time period. And to your point, that's where we can see the investment portion of an HSA account really come into play. If you are using it as a retirement tool and not just money in, money out, like an FSA is kind of meant to be, that's where the benefit truly is. It's the compounding rates of return, hopefully over time, on the investment portion where you're growing that money tax deferred and hopefully taking it out tax free from the HSA at some point in the future.
Okay, so I think that's a good overview for FSA, HSA.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say, well, we've closed out healthcare. So all year long, you have this deductible. One thing you may want to consider, and it's probably too late to schedule surgery or something.
Yeah, probably.
If you're closer to your deductible and you've been putting off some kind of appointment or something, I don't know. I mean, that gets a little personal, but if you're close to it, use that so that you can reach that deductible and start and pay less for healthcare. So not necessarily see something in a financial plan, but thinking about this health deductible, it resets January 1, and you're going to start all over with getting max out the deductible. So something to think about if you're putting off going to the doctor, making an appointment.
And I think most people understand. If you've already met your deductible this year, and if there's anything else, if you're putting something off, probably better to do it in this calendar year if you've already met your deductible, rather than, like you said, starting fresh again next year. Whatever that's going to cost, you're going to have to meet your deductible first. So yeah, it's good to group those things together if it works out. If not, so be it. But I think that's low hanging fruit. So yes, let's switch gears now to going back. I was going to say similar to the retirement conversation, but specifically for non-retirement investment accounts. And I know Ben and I talked about this recently as well. Tax loss harvesting. I think this was a couple podcasts ago, just through the lens of trying to make some lemonade out of the lemons that the market has handed us this year, investments have handed us. Tax loss harvesting is a way to essentially sell your investments that are showing a loss for this year, a loss from when you purchased them. And those losses you can either use to offset other gains that you may have, or you can deduct those losses on your tax return up to $3,000 each year. If you have losses more than $3,000, you don't just lose those. Say you have 10,000 in losses, you can only claim up to 3,000 this year. You can carry forward those losses for up to 5. Is it 5 years or is it unlimited? I should probably know this.
It's unlimited.
Yeah, I'm thinking of something else. Yeah, so you can essentially carry forward those losses to future tax years, again, to either offset other gains or just to deduct them from your taxes. So if you have losses this year in a non-retirement investment account, it may make sense to use those losses through the tax lens. Maybe not, it all depends, which I know we say a lot. But that is another area of opportunity here before the end of the year, because that is a calendar year. If you wanted to lock in any losses or take any gains, you got to do it by December 31st.
So when in my conversations with clients, this one is hard to translate, like how this is a good thing, because a lot of people say like, oh, you're selling my accounts and you've lost money. Like, why is this good? So thinking about someone in RMD, Adam, they're taking their money out. That RMD is recognized as ordinary income. But on their other side, they have a brokerage account, which we did some tax loss harvesting. Can you explain like how that would work and how it would be to their benefit?
Yeah. So essentially, in that scenario, if we're taking from a retirement account, or they're forced to take from a retirement account, then that's where the losses can kick in. And I guess that's where it's only the $3,000 impact that you can deduct from the non-retirement account to help offset the income from the retirement account. I think where if you have a larger account or you have larger losses, where that comes into play is if you own mutual funds. We've seen this. I've seen this year. It's kind of the perfect storm of a bad situation where people are seeing their investment values dropping. But if they own a mutual fund, these mutual funds by their structure, they have to pass along their gains to the shareholders. If you own the fund, they pass forward these gains. And not all funds do it. Bond funds, for the most part, are shielded from that because they just don't necessarily have the gains. But there are some equity or stock funds that are losing value, but also passing on to you a taxable capital gain distribution, which is the worst possible scenario here, where you're going to now pay taxes on gains that you're not seeing or feeling, but you still got to pay the taxes. So that's where there may be an opportunity to sell that investment before it kicks off that taxable gain to you. And even better, if you're able to sell it at a loss, you're avoiding the taxable gain, you're getting the deduction, or you're using that loss to offset other gains. That's, I think, where it's a bit of the shell game, right, from a tax perspective, to just try to use your losses when you have them.
So that we can recap with my example of the RMD. So the RMD is income, are not a gain. And so the losses that we would be locking in would offset a gain. So if it's a taxable distribution or a long-term gain distribution, or you had like a big stock that had a lot of gains, that's where it would come into play, right?
Yes. Yep. So yes. I'm thinking of a specific client right now where you may use some of your other losses to take gains in maybe it is a concentrated position that you don't necessarily want to own as much of anymore. You can kind of use that loss to offset some of the gain that you're going to realize on that single stock or holding that maybe you've held for a really long time and just haven't gotten rid of it because you don't want to pay the taxes. That's a way to use the loss to offset another gain somewhere else and allow you to maybe further diversify if that makes sense in your plan.
Okay. I think that's far enough with tax loss harvesting. We've probably lost everyone. So let's move on to our last one that we have here is education funding. So 529s is 16,000 is the individual gift limit without going over a gift tax. So that's the so-called the limit for 529. So contribution limit for a child. You can give, so if you're a grandparent, you can give to your grandchild. If you have nieces and nephews, you can give to them. It's not discriminatory as far as you can only give to these people. So you have to that amount. We did a podcast, Ben and I was the only one I've done. But we talked about education funding. So I'm not the biggest fan of 529s in that it locks up the money and can only be used for a narrow scope. But I do see the benefit in it. What my whole thing is that those balances can get bloated into the point of like you maybe you have some in an investment account and some in a Roth and some in a 529. So just consider that carefully. If I don't want to jump too far without you giving something on 529s, but you if a child has income, you can fund a Roth for them up to the limit, but also up to what their income was for the year. So I was talking with you earlier, like these are the gifts that no one really cares about, but like if you gave someone like I don't even know, $500 like Roth contribution, $100 whatever, like that to me is a nerdy financial advisor kind of guy. That's the better gift by far than another toy that they're going to play with for a little bit and then move on. So I'll let you go so I don't dominate the whole section here. But
well, no, that's So I'll just share. So yes, it's not a fun gift for a young individual to unwrap. Hey, by the way, we made a contribution to your Roth IRA, and they say, well, great. What can I do with that now? And well, you're not going to touch it maybe for the next 50 years of your life or 40 years of your life. Well, thanks, mom and dad, or, thanks, grandma, grandpa. But I think the point is valid. It's a creative way, if it fits the situation, for the parents, the grandparents, whoever, to start that account or to add to that account and get years, decades potentially of compounding growth over time. So yeah, while if it's a $500 contribution now, maybe that doesn't feel impactful to that child, but I guarantee 40, 50 years from now, that account, they're going to be very grateful for that contribution. It's just another way to hopefully pass along some good habits and some good financial tips, earlier in life. So yeah, it is a creative way of giving gifts around this time of year.
So I wish that I had the, Roth set up for me when I was like 15 and started working.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I guarantee I wouldn't have contributed though, but if somebody would
right.
it would have been awesome.
That's fair.
Just wanted to close on one thing, is that with Christmas holiday shopping, read some things like 1 in 4 people are planning on going into debt to buy Christmas gifts. I completely understand the human nature of it all, to be like, you want to make sure everyone gets what's on their list and surprise and delight, and it makes you feel good. And so like, I'm not going to stop anyone from doing that. But it's a nasty cycle of running yourself into debt and then catching up the next year, and then thinking about the things we talked about where people aren't maxing out or contributing as much as they can. You're not able to because you ran into debt. So just thinking about these things as we go into the year end, try and make a budget and think about what you spend, be mindful about these gifts. And if you think it's really going to be a great gift with a long-term impact, go for it. I mean, that's the personal side of finances. It's not always X's and O's and zeros and ones. Use money that makes you feel good, but just don't extend yourself and hurt yourself financially just for a quick impulse.
Yes, it's the quick dopamine hit of opening a present or giving a gift. Yeah, so that's valid. I'm glad you said that. So then, let's wrap it up. So the important part of all of this is there are some things that have year-end deadlines, some retirement accounts, some of the healthcare, either spending or savings, education funding. What else do we hit on? Tax loss harvesting for non-retirement accounts. If you have questions on any of this or want to understand if it pertains to your situation, or if you have questions, that's why we're here. Give us a shout. We got a couple more weeks here before the end of the year. So let's finish the year strong, to wrap up some of these items and set yourself up for success for 2023.
One thing.
Go ahead.
If someone listening is thinking about doing tax loss harvesting on their own, maybe call us or look up something called the wash sale rule.
Yes.
Don't get yourself in trouble with that. It's selling and then like going back into the position.
Buying the same thing. Yep.
The 30 days, Adam.
30. It's 30. It's 31. It's 30 plus the little extra from the IRS.
So you're doing your own tax loss harvesting. Just be careful. That's the only thing I feel like we didn't hit on.
No, that's a good point.
So,
okay.
Go for your reach out.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. Till next time. Thank you. Bye.
Hey everyone, Adam and I really appreciate you tuning in. Please note that the opinions we voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be most appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, your accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to making any decisions or investing. Thanks for listening.